Good morning, everyone. This video will explain how we use specific games like Spider Web for community mobilization. We carried out this action research in partnership with goodliving.eco. Goodliving.eco strives to co-design and build climate resilient and green housing for the poor and marginalized families and communities impacted by extreme climate events. Their interventions are located around the Villupuram district of Tamil Nadu at present. Good Living Echo has been working with climate impacted households who were highly vulnerable to storms, cyclones, heavy rains, and flooding. The walls or roofs of most of these houses could collapse during a heavy storm, rendering these families homeless and causing injury and death. For example, during the Thane cyclone, the deaths in Villupuram occurred mainly due to the electrocution, tree falling, and the collapse of houses or walls. Trees were uprooted and they fell over lampposts and electric poles. Hand pumps and borewells were damaged, which led to severe water scarcity and lack of safe drinking water. Major roads were blocked for almost a week. Cyclones thus can directly and indirectly affect the public health system, housing, transport, food, and nutrition in the global south. The people accounted that during the Thane cyclone, they could not access hospitals or even primary health care as the roads were not transportable and hospitals lacked energy supplies. Communicable diseases were common during the cyclone as the people were displaced and had poor access to basic needs such as safe water and sanitation, adequate shelter, and primary healthcare services. Almost all the impacted houses were kacha houses, what they call as kurei veedu, made with thatched roofs and mud walls, as shown in the figure here. A predominant number of households use raw mud bricks, which are unbaked, for constructing the walls, which could crack or fall easily during a heavy rain. The foundations were weak and built upon the ground without proper plastering. As cement is a costlier alternative to mud, people prefer unbaked bricks. However, these bricks are vulnerable to erosion during heavy rains. The floors are not adequately plastered and therefore would cause water to percolate and spring up during heavy rains, causing flooding as well. Many households use a firewood stove outside their homes to cook. Many houses have only one single firewood stove. Therefore, the women in these households must wake up hours before everybody else in the house to cook food for the family. Their hardships multiply during the rainy season as they find it difficult to make fire and cook using a firewood stove. During the rains, women are forced to cook inside their houses, exposing themselves to smoke and other harmful gases. Also, during monsoon, they cannot use firewood for cooking due to the wet environment and lack of access to kerosene. They lack storage spaces for keeping the collected firewood, and the consumption of LPG increases, which is costly. Sanitation is another aspect where people struggle. The washrooms and toilets are makeshift, unsafe, and unprotected structures. Washrooms are built and covered by tarpaulin sheets or racks of clothes, as shown in the above photograph. It is the common aspiration of the people in this village to own climate resilient houses. However, there are several barriers preventing them from achieving their aspirations. Largely, caste and gender-based barriers, as well as class-based segregations, impact their efforts to build a home. After the preliminary discussions with the Good Living Eco team, the Action Research's initial aim was to collectivize the climate-impacted households. The anticipated outcomes were better group understanding, improved additional income opportunities, and enhanced solidarities towards climate-resilient housing. The guiding assumptions were that the micro-mobilization processes could result in a solidarity platform where discussion about housing could be done. The group building process will eventually enable the climate impacted households to move towards the larger goal of achieving climate resilient housing and thus addressing the barriers preventing them from achieving their aspirations as well. Our everyday engagements were thus channeled towards creating a community platform for 10 households to discuss housing concerns, enabling active participation of members in the weekly and smaller group meetings, building local leadership, and developing local solutions for climate adaptation. For the action research, we purposefully selected 11 female headed households. The women in these households belong to either the scheduled caste or the backward class communities. All women we selected for the action research were the critical breadwinner for the family. Also, they had stories of alcoholism and domestic violence to share. Most of the older women used to work in the construction sector before, and now they are engaged in domestic work or cooking jobs in various shops. To begin with, our strategy was to visit each household and have shared conversations with the different members of the family. During this process, we listened to their stories of their everyday vulnerabilities, aspirations, and livelihood practices. A crucial phase of this action research was the micro mobilization, which aimed at organizing these climate impacted households to participate collectively in devising suitable adaptation strategies. As a collective, these households were a very dispersed and heterogeneous group of people coming from various intersectional backgrounds. Factors such as the scattered nature of their houses and previous histories of conflicts among them, embedded with caste and gender intersectionalities, had already impacted the group morale. So, to begin with, each group member shared the nature of their present housing situation and the impact of extreme weather events. Gradually, these participatory meetings became conversation spaces to share their frustrations and aspirations with one another. The agenda, venue, day, time, and type of refreshments needed for the weekly meetings were pre-decided in discussion with the members. At the commencement of each meeting, the members were encouraged to share a gist of what they had discussed in the previous meeting with additional inputs from our facilitator. Diverse households share the nature of different barriers constraining them from claiming their rights to safe housing. They also illustrated the complexities surrounding housing finance at the local level. Often the discussions were carried out with the help of some activities and games to maintain people's focus. Furthermore, improvisations of plans were done to ensure the members' attention. After every discussion, debriefing next week's agenda and asking people's opinions on the meetings conducted were carried out. A very innovative game that facilitated this participatory collective was the spider web. The learning goal of spider web was to understand people's plans to build any new house and the barriers to these plans. For this, all participants sat in the form of a circle. A big ball of string was used for conducting the activity. Each participant had to hold on to one end of the string and then toss it across to someone sitting opposite to them by saying his or her name as they threw it to another participant. The members had to hold on to their end tightly. The facilitator asked the recipients to hold on to the string so that it made a fault line between them. The following person who received the string ball was asked to throw it across the circle to someone else by saying the person's name as they rolled or tossed it. Initially, it was difficult for the facilitators to verbally explain and make the people understand the rules and process of the activity. Thus, we had to demonstrate the process at first by playing on our own. The participants grasped it quickly and started tossing the rope while actively engaging in the discussion. It also acted as an icebreaker among the participants since the people had to call out and nominate another person. We noticed subtle dynamics between members like Paru and Jaya throughout the game. Paru, whose neighbor was Jaya, had to pass the rope to Jaya after her turn, and she passed it directly by throwing it but without calling her name. When we inquired why she was not ready to call out Jaya's name, Paru responded, I know her name, but I will not take her name. However, eventually, Paru had to call out Jaya's name upon other group members' insistence. Everyone continued this activity until the ring was full of taut lines crisscrossing the circle. The facilitator drew the group's attention toward the string that connects them all, like a spider's web, and they all depend on one another to keep this web firm and supportive. If anyone were to take their hand away from the web, that part of it would collapse. He also asked people to reflect upon how this spider's web exercise related to the group climate and stressed the importance of working together. We had yet another intention to continue with this activity. It allowed each group member to express their voice, aspirations, and concern. The shared conversations became more organized as the people did not speak simultaneously. Thus, the activity ensured that every person got a chance to speak. This activity also acted as an energizer during the meeting. People were engrossed with all their senses since they had to anticipate the rope being passed to them. Each participant had a sad story to share. Most of these stories were about corruption at the grassroots, where they had to bribe the clerk or the bureaucrat who was in charge of distributing the subsidy for housing. However, most of these amounts never came to their account, or the contractors involved in the construction of the house had snatched away all the money. For example, Ammu did not give a bribe to the panchayat clerk. Instead, she offered to give a portion of the amount once the subsidy came. After the money got sanctioned, she gave the installments to a contractor recommended by the bureaucrat. The contractor built a foundation and the columns for the house. Once the second installment was handed over, there was no response from either the contractor or the clerk. She believes both of them have swindled her money.
Just have mentioned, we were like introduced to different methods and theories before our fieldwork itself, block fieldwork itself. And what I really liked about the methods that we used in the block fieldwork is like how the people were also incorporated. They were like equally incorporated in all the methods that we have used. So the first one was like household visits. So when we say household visit, it's just not like going into the house and like talking to them for a while and then coming back. It is like being there and engaging with them throughout all the activities, all the household chores that they were doing, and being there with them, listening to everything that they were saying, even though we had only limited time. So it was not just a household visit. I would like to term it as being in their house, like for quite a lot of time. That's how we connected with the community, especially the women. They will be like working a lot for from 9 to 6 they'll be working. In the evening they'll come back, and even if they were too tired or they need a time for themselves to get out of that business of busy life they had, they were ready to sit with us and talk with us. That was the beauty of the method that we chose, which I really liked. And another one is the games that we have planned. Going to the market, fetching all the materials for conducting all the activities. The spiderweb game. It was really fun. And also when we were when we were describing how to do it, they quickly catched it, and they were cracking jokes in between. They used to roast us. These were fun part we had during our methodology. And the methods that we have used. Also, I remember when we played the passing parcel game, there we saw the spirit of women, competitive spirit of women. They're nobody was ready to pass the parcel and be out of that game. Everybody was very competitive, and after the end of the game, even though we just give a small gift, they were they're very happy to say that they won the game. It was really nice, and these were the quicker ways which we connected with the women. And also, since we connected so much, it was really hard to say goodbye to these women. They were calling us sisters. They were calling us daughters. They even said that I'm really happy that I have someone to share all these things with. It was like so we were like really happy about how we approached the women. And throughout the methods, we were like focused on the theories of chaos, justice, and solidarity. I think since we were like very aware of all these things during our orientation, we were able to execute. We were not like lost with them. We didn't went to the community, or we didn't talk to the women just like a social worker who are practicing all these things through the theories. Or care, being being open to them and caring them was like with us, that was innate in us. Maybe can we say that innate? I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So it was like beautiful to see how we were able to care them.
They were also equally
Yeah.
So
it was
that
like
mutual.
it's like a giving back. We give care, they give us care, and we try to do justice with them. In a whole, it was like a beautiful experience. The methods and the theories that we chose.
And so the phase we or the objective that we dived into directly was community mobilization, because we saw there a lack of a space or a platform where the community can come together cohesively and discuss around their housing concerns and aspirations. So this is how we started. So initially, I have to tell the experience that I faced was that initially during the rural practicum phase, we only had one person in the organization guiding us, but in the block fieldwork phase, we had three people who were guiding us. So there were often conflicts during our planning itself, and our planning itself took a lot of time during the block fieldwork. Now after this, the methods we mainly used to mobilize the community was that we would hold weekly meetings with the community. For that, we would plan games and activities that would engage them, and plan before the meeting of what all should be discussed in the meeting. And for this, we used to refer our own professor's work, which was around adaptive innovations in climate change by Professor Sunil. So we went back to his work and tried to reflect on whatever methodologies and whatever theories we could use for our intervention itself. So from there, we read more about community mobilization and how it should go about, and also the theory of especially because we were mostly engaging with women, the theory of justice, care, and solidarity was becoming very relevant for us. So that also guided us in our in our engagement with the community. And from the rural practicum itself, intersectionality was was an important lens with which we had to approach the entire process, because people were coming from a very heterogeneous community, which various identities intersecting. There were women, they were coming from less privileged castes, and they had they were coming from a low income community. So all these various identities intersected and played out in their daily living struggles. So understanding this from guided by these theories was also a learning and like learning evolution for myself. And the methods we used, including the spiderweb activity that we tried with the community, was also very helpful and very impactful. And even that we got from training manuals of UNICEF and all that. So all these we were also in a concerted effort to get resources from online, offline mode, and we also actively engaged to refer things and make sure we don't go out there aimlessly, and we make a solid plan before getting there.